Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you're here. We are back again this month with another monthly wrap up, this time for the month of August. I felt pretty good about my reading month in August. I feel like I started off really strong and then towards the end, I kind of got a little slumpy again and slowed down my reading pace, which is fine. Obviously, I'm going to read at quicker paces and read more at different times. I'm also coming up on a very big life thing that is going to take a lot of personal time, so I probably won't be reading a ton of September if I can guess how much I can read in September, unless I'm just cranking out the audiobooks. Who knows? You guys also know that if you watch my TBR videos, one big goal for me at least once this year is to finish one of my physical TBRs that I set for myself in my monthly TBR videos. I normally just pick 6 books, and I believe I finished 3 of the 6 this month. I am in the process of finishing a 4th right now, but I'm just not going to be able to finish that for this video. It'll probably be done before the end of the month, but I do have to pre-film this because I'm actually going away this weekend, and I wanted to make sure you guys had this video on the 1st. So if you want to know info about that book, you can always check out my Goodreads, and it's also just going to be in my next monthly wrap-up. As always, we're going to go ahead and start with some statistics. Now, was I a good YouTuber this month, and did I prep everything for you? Nope. Absolutely not. I did not do that. So I will go ahead and have the statistics up here. I know for a fact that I read 9 books this month. I'll have my page breakdown, genre breakdown, average rating, all of that kind of stuff. I think the biggest thing I'm noticing when I'm looking at the books that I've read this month is that I read a ton of romances. I was just in a big romance mood apparently, which is honestly good going into the fall season because I know I'm going to be in a big fantasy mood. So maybe that this is like preparing me for my fantasy mood and to really bitch some fantasies. Okay, now we have my little TBR review and my statistics for the month out of the way. We're going to go ahead and just go into my first book, which was Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. In this book, our main character, she's I think in her like mid-30s, she's divorced, she has 2 kids, and she's a writer, and she ends up writing a screenplay for like a major motion picture about her relationship with her ex-husband, and then they end up asking if they can film the movie at her house. So there's like a film crew, there's a whole set, there's tons of famous actors and actresses and stuff like that there at her house, and then everybody leaves besides one guy, and he just ends up staying, and he's like the Hollywood heartthrob at the time, and he ends up staying at her house, hanging out with her kids, doing normal people things, just being a part of her world. I did like this. I thought it was fun in summary, but also a little deep too. I feel like all of Annabelle Monaghan's books have a certain level of depth to them while also staying fun, which I do enjoy. And it was also short and sweet and like gets to the point. Like she knows what to cut out and what to keep in when it comes to writing her books. I did like our 2 main characters, and I really enjoyed the kids in this book too. I feel like they added to the story and made it feel like a little bit more real. And I did enjoy it overall, but it just wasn't my favorite because I felt like there wasn't enough build up for the relationship. I definitely felt the chemistry off the page, which is a big thing for me in romance books. And I know I talk about that a lot, but I did feel the chemistry, but I didn't really feel like the conflict that they kind of had at the end really made any sense to me personally. I think I'm gonna rate this like a 3.5. It was a good solid romance and I enjoyed it a lot. It just wasn't really one of my favorites. Okay, and then we have Not in Love by Miss Ali Hazelwood. This is more of a erotic romance, and it's very tonally different from the other work that she has done that's right over here. So if you're going to read this, make sure you read the author's note before you get into it because it does explain that pretty thoroughly. This book is dual POV, and it's about our 2 main characters, Rue and Eli, and basically they're in a science world, and Rue works for a company that Eli's company is trying to like kind of take over, and there's like all these different like sciencey patents and stuff like that, and these random things going on that are kind of sciencey, but she makes it work. She explains it so thoroughly, and I understood it so much. Do I understand it to the point to explain it to you? Probably not, because I am no scientist, of course, but if you read this, just know you will not be confused, and it's pretty self-explanatory the way she explains it. This does get a little bit more smutty. Like I already said, it's a little bit more erotic than her other books, but the smut got to the point where it just didn't make sense for the plot. And once the smut overtakes the plot, I'm kind of checked out mentally, which really stings because I loved the plot. I thought it was so interesting, and I liked the characters a lot, and I thought they had like a good connection, but it just didn't really make sense some of the spots where she had spice, having spice, because it just didn't do anything for the plot, and it honestly kind of disrupted a lot of plot devices that she was using. And they had a good connection even emotionally too. Definitely physically. But in my mind, it wasn't really to the extent of what she painted of how it ended. I feel like she wanted this to end like any regular schmegular romance book does, but it just didn't really make sense for me because I feel like they didn't have, well, that's not true. Not that they didn't have a super deep connection, because I think they did, and I did enjoy them a lot. And oh my gosh, Eli, literally the biggest simp ever. He worships the ground that Rue walks on. But I feel like they both had a lot of trauma and a lot of things that they had to go through and grow from as well before they could do what they did at the very end of this book. Not even in the epilogue, but also in the epilogue. I don't know. It was just kind of like weird to me, and this one just kind of felt a little long, and I was kind of like a little disappointed in this one. I think I'm gonna rate this like a 3.25. There were things that I really enjoyed about it, but things that I just really didn't. And then I read Kiss the Girl by Zoraida Cordova. This is a part of the Maybe Meant to Be series, so there's a bunch of different authors writing Disney retellings. And I did read the first two, and I think my favorite out of all three so far is If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. I really enjoyed that one. It's the Cinderella retelling. You don't have to read the first two to read this one either, so it's completely up to you because they're interconnected. Actually, I don't even think they're interconnected. I think they're all just like princesses. I think that's all that's really connecting them. There's a fourth one called Tangled Up in You that just released too, which is the Rapunzel inspired one by Christina Lauren, so I really want to read that one. Kiss the Girl, though, is based off of The Little Mermaid, and our main character Ariel is a part of a singing group with her sisters. They're like super big, super famous, A-list celebrities, and then they all end up deciding that it's time to let go of the Siren 7 name, and they're all gonna go off and do their own solo things. One thing leads to another. She gets in a disagreement with her dad, and she ends up quote unquote running away from her responsibilities, and she meets this guy named Eric who's a part of a band, and he invites her to go on tour with his band, and she goes. And that's all I'm really gonna say about that, because the plot kind of like thickens just a little bit. I think this might be my second favorite out of the series. I didn't enjoy the Beauty and the Beast one as much for some odd reason, even though I love Beauty and the Beast. I think it's just because I don't like Grumpy Sunshine. But I really liked Eric. I really liked Ariel, which her name in the book is also Melody, so I really liked them together. They definitely had a lot of chemistry. I thought it was just like a really cute and really fun idea for a retelling. Always the retellings that I find that people do of Disney princesses or just Disney tales are very creative, and I just really enjoy them because I'm a big like Disney nerd. I'm a Disney adult. Sue me. Okay, sue me. I think I'm gonna end up rating this like a 3.75 or so. I did enjoy this quite a bit, but it wasn't like my favorite book ever. And this did not do what a lot of romance books have been doing lately, where I read the first half, absolutely love it, and then the second half just kind of lets me down a little bit. It was just kind of like a steady, good book all the way throughout, which I really appreciated. That was another thing with Not in Love. I love the first half. It was so good, and then the second half just kind of like fell through, which is so disappointing. And I'm probably gonna say that about more books in this video too. Then I ended up reading a memoir, actually. It's the Matthew Perry memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. Like memoirs are, it was just about his life, and he really struggled with addiction mainly, and he talks a lot about his struggle with that. He talks a lot about how it was being on the Friends TV show, playing Chandler, growing up trying to be an actor, just other like life things too that he went through, especially growing up. Like his parents were divorced and not really like fully there for him whenever he was really young. And I always find it interesting learning about people that I see on TV or that are in the Hollywood public eye, especially back in the day, because it's such a different thing than it really was now. If you've watched my channel for a while, I don't rate memoirs because I don't think it's really fair to rate something that is based on somebody's real life experiences. I don't really think that that's right or like just, you know? So I didn't rate it, but I did enjoy it, and I do recommend it if you were a Matthew Perry fan, a Friends fan, if you just like memoirs about actors, actresses, anybody in the public eye. I think you would like it a lot. Then I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I have been talking about wanting to read this book for so long. You guys know how much I love The Dead Romantics by her, because I just loved her writing so much, and the story was so good. I'm so glad that I finally got to it. The 7-Year Slip is about our main character, Clementine, and she's going through a lot of grief in her life right now. Somebody that was really important to her passed away, and she ends up getting to take their apartment, like she gets it in the will, and the apartment just holds so many strong memories and feelings for her. And one thing that Clementine doesn't know about the apartment is that it's magical. I guess she did know, but she didn't really believe it whenever her aunt told her. But one day she walks into the apartment and she sees a random guy there, and lo and behold, she's 7 years in the past. This book perfectly encapsulated right person, wrong time in such a beautiful way. I ate it up. I was literally sobbing whenever I finished this. This was so beautifully written, and I love magical realism. Please leave me recs down below for any books with magical realism in it that's anything like this. I will probably eat it up. And I already talked so much about this in the reading vlog that I read this Listen, so you can check that out if you want to. I think it's in the mood reading vlog, but her writing is just so incredibly good. She makes things feel so realistic, even though she's talking about magic. I don't really want to say anything else about the plot because I don't want to spoil it for you, because I went into this basically blind besides knowing about the apartment being magic, and I ate it up and loved every single bit of it. It was so incredibly good. I don't really know yet what I want to rate this. I've been between a 4.75 and a 5-star, but I think it might be a 5-star. I think it's a 5-star, but I'm still not sure yet. So check out my Goodreads rating whenever I put that up eventually, because I've just been feeling really weird about my ratings lately. I don't know, but no matter what my rating, you need to read this immediately. Then I read The Love Wager by Miss Lynn Painter. This is about our two main characters, Jack and Hallie, and it's dual POV. Jack and Hallie meet at a wedding. They have a night together, if you know what I mean. And then they randomly become friends. They start talking and they realize that they both want to find a person to spend the rest of their lives with, and then make it kind of like a competition or a bet to see who can find their person first. You guys know I'm a big fan of Lynn Painter's young adult books. I've read one of her other new adult books and I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was cute, you know. It wasn't anything crazy or anything mind-boggling, but it was a fun, fluffy palate cleanser read. This was kind of the same. I did enjoy this one more though than the other one that I read. I was actually really enjoying this one at first. Like I was saying about Not in Love, this had the same loved it at first, then as we kept going, down the drain syndrome that book had. I don't know why, but I was just so invested in the characters, and then one of our characters just did something so completely out of character for them, and I was just kind of realizing that these characters weren't really like flushed out in who they were and their character traits and what they would do, and the thing that happened I knew was gonna come back to bite them in the butt at the end, but the way they communicated about it just didn't really make any sense to me and kind of made me like upset, because they had a good thing going. Okay, they had such a good thing going, and I was so excited about where they ended up going at the end of the book. I thought it was so cute and fun, and they're just flirting all the time and so happy, and then that one thing had to happen. I was like, literally why? And it's not even really like a third act breakup. I feel like those tend to bother me a lot of the time, but this wasn't really like that. I don't know, maybe I just need to take a break from romance books, but that's also not true, because the 7-year slip literally hit, and then there's another one that I'm about to talk about hit too. It was really good. So I don't know, I think I'm gonna rate this like a 3.5. That's been like my pretty common rating as of late with a lot of romance books, just because I feel like I'm just reading the same thing over and over again in a way, or I just kind of get disappointed by the ending of a lot of them. And then my book club and I finally finished Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. We have been reading this for months, and we just like to take our time, you know. That's not a bad thing. This is the sequel to Divine Rivals. It's just a duology, and that was one of the books that completely blew up last year on Book Talk. I love that book. I ate it up. I rated it a 4.75. I really enjoyed it, and I was so looking forward to this one, but alas, this one did not hit as hard. This duology is basically about two main characters named Iris and Roman, and it's like an enemies to lovers type thing. They're kind of both fighting for the same job in the journalism career, and there's also a war with the gods going on, so that's where the fantasy element comes into play. I will say in the first book we didn't really get a lot of the fantasy elements. It almost just felt like a historical fiction, which I really enjoyed, and I thought that that would be really cool if honestly it was more of a historical fiction in a way, because since we didn't have a lot of the fantasy in the last one, we got way too much fantasy in this one, and the way that she did it just didn't really make sense to me. We were basically being told and not shown what's going on a lot of the time, and I feel like we still don't really know like the true story of the gods and exactly why everything was happening. I wish we would have gotten way more information on that and seen into that, but the main thing that really bothered me is that every time there was a problem, there was almost an instant solution. It wasn't like they had to go back to a part in book 1 or whatever, or things were talked about earlier or anything like that. Literally one of the things that they needed to solve the entire conflict was just too easily done. And there was also something that happened at the end of this book, a few somethings actually, that were very out of character for these characters too, and I know them pretty well because this is my second book with them and spending time with them, and it just really did not feel right for them to do those things. I still love Iris and Roman, and I still love their love story. I was just really looking forward to this one, and I don't know, it just didn't hit as much, unfortunately. I think that there were parts that were really good, but a lot of the plot devices just weren't done correctly. It almost felt like she was like at a rush to print, which maybe that was why, just because Divine Rivals was very popular. I've seen that with a lot of sequels recently of the Book Talk books that I really enjoy. Like I love the first one, and then the second one is just kind of like disappointing for me. I don't know if that's me having too high hopes, or maybe I'm getting pickier as a reader. I don't really know. I think I'm gonna rate this a 3-star though. It concluded their story, you know, maybe not in the way that I would have loved to have it concluded, but I read it and it happened. So that's that on that. This next book is actually read in my 24-hour readathon that I uploaded a few days ago, so go check that out if you want to watch me read it in real time. And this is a new release that was supposed to be released at the very end of the month, and I got it like in the middle. I don't know what my Barnes was doing, but I also found it funny because I went to Barnes one day and I found it and I bought it, and then a few days later I went and they were all gone. So I don't know if that means that they were sold out or if they just put them back because they weren't supposed to put them out yet. But my Barnes never does releases like that. Like, they're always pretty sticklery about putting them out the day of. But the book is Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is the third book in the Maple Hills Interconnected standalone series. First two are Icebreaker and Wildfire, and this one is Daydream. This is Henry's book and Hallie's book. Henry, we do know from previous books, he is on the hockey team and he's actually the captain of the hockey team this year. He's also an art major and he struggles with learning how other people learn, and he doesn't really know exactly why that is, but his brain just works a little bit differently, and there is nothing wrong with that. Obviously, my brain definitely be working a lot differently than a lot of other people's. But then we have Miss Hallie, who they meet through mutual friends, and she decides to help him with his classes, and then their friendship just kind of grows and blossoms from there. Now, I will say that Hannah Grace's books are very character based, so just know going in you're not going to get a crazy amount of plot. I feel like sometimes her books have a little bit of plot. There was a plot with one of my favorite tropes, which I really enjoyed, but it's not like it's like continuously done or going until the end or anything like that. So just know that going in, like, don't expect a huge plot structure. But the found family in this one is so good. I related to Hallie and Henry so much. I feel like I've talked about this book so much recently because I've just filmed a few videos where I've talked about it, but I truly have never felt so seen reading characters' thoughts than I did whenever I read Hallie and Henry's perspectives. I feel like if you literally just mix their brains together, you get my brain, and I felt so seen by both of them. Hallie also struggles a lot with being like a people pleaser and just doing too much for people and all of that kind of stuff. Her family dynamic is also very interesting and weird, and she also has a weird dynamic with her ex-boyfriend in her family, which was honestly kind of juicy, and sometimes while I was reading this I felt like I was literally reading a reality TV show. That's when I love a character-based book, actually, is whenever it feels like I'm like reading a reality TV show. I think I'm gonna rate this a 4.75 or a 4.5, maybe around there. I really enjoyed this, and I really love these characters. I thought it was really good, and I really enjoyed the story. Also, I'm gonna say, if you didn't like Icebreaker or Wildfire as much, specifically because of like the spice, this has way less spice than the other ones do. And it's also less descriptive spice, in my opinion, as well. And this also felt very tonally different than the other ones, in my opinion. I mean, maybe it's because we're following two totally different characters than the other ones, but I like really enjoyed this one. This next book I actually saw while I was strolling around at Barnes a while ago, and I read the synopsis and I thought it sounded really cute and interesting, and honestly, I love a good, fun, cheesy YA rom-com if I'm in the mood for it. It's called Dungeons and Drama, and I was a big theater girly growing up, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna eat this up. It's singular POV, first person, and our main character, Riley, is a big drama kid. She's super involved in the shows and she just loves doing drama, but she does end up getting grounded because she makes not the best choice, and she ends up having to spend her time after school working at her dad's game shop as her punishment, and she ends up meeting other people there that she doesn't really talk to at school, and she joins their Dungeons and Dragons group. I actually found the Dungeons and Dragons part of this book pretty interesting. I know nothing about the game. I've never played it or anything like that, but it honestly sounds kind of fun. I feel like it's definitely like a lot, because it's not like a game you can just sit down and play like Uno or whatever. It's gonna be done in 15 minutes. Like, it's a game you continuously play like over and over again, like for days and days and days or weeks and months or whatever. I don't know everything about it, obviously. Everything that was described about it, I totally understood though. And there may or may not be a coworker there that has caught her eye a little bit, and there's also one of my favorite tropes in here. And she is also working to save her school's musical. She puts so much work into that, all while she's grounded. And there's also one of my favorite things that they do in YA books in this book, and I ate it up and loved it like I do every other time. This book was so cute and fun. I really enjoyed it. I feel like if you were a drama kid in high school, or you love music in high school, anything like that, you'll definitely relate to Riley's character and her best friend. And if you just want something light, cutesy, and fun, you know, with like a little bit of depth, you're gonna eat this up and enjoy it. I think I'm gonna rate this like a 4 or 4.25. Not entirely sure on that yet, but I did really enjoy it. It was really fun and cute. Okay, those are all the books that I ended up reading in August. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts on these books down below in the comments. We can chat about it down there. If you guys did watch until this far in the video, go ahead and comment down below the lemon emoji so I know who the real ones are who watched till the end. If you want to keep up with me on the daily, you can check out my Instagram, my TikTok, and my Goodreads. Goodreads especially if you want real-time updates of what I'm reading, and those will always be linked down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe subscribe too if you did enjoy this video. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day and you had a wonderful August reading month. And yeah, I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome. I don't even know how I intro videos anymore. What do I say? Luke, which was Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle. Oh my gosh, why can't I say this? Oh, it was a fun, fluffy clout. But it was a fun, fluffy oh my gosh.